Good evening and welcome to another installment of the New York Minute Sports Show. George Washington, a.k.a. Bret Hart, hates everybody he ever wrestled with and says Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels were lovers. My childhood's been ruined.
It's New York Minute Sports.
I'm just telling you, I think I'm very close to the truth here. Shawn and Vince were lovers, and that's why I'm being dead honest, and I'm telling you. We all know what the H stands for.
So, before you laugh this off, people at home, you got to remember the news that just came out in the past year and the quid pro quo that was going on in WWE with Vince McMahon, where he literally had concubines on the payroll, female and male. Yes, I'll repeat, female and male. Apparently, Vince McMahon had relations with both sexes throughout the years in the 80s and the 90s. And apparently the only way that certain performers could get to the top was getting to the bottom of Vince McMahon. So, Mike, are you buying any of this, first of all?
I'm not buying any of this from Bret Hart. He's a miserable guy at this point in his career and life.
I am buying this 100%.
I just, when I look back, it's like I got caught between two lovers, and I got shafted and screwed over, and Shawn was so envious and jealous of my position that he finally had to sleep with Vince.
And now, like, all the things that, like, I start thinking about in WFAN, like, I'm not your boy toy, sexy boy. Yeah, you might be. And do you remember when he lost his spirit and had the black eye?
And he cried? Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Like, that's like a humiliation ritual. So Vince McMahon, you got to remember, going back to the day, this guy calls himself the Genetic Jackhammer. And he's literally coming up on trial for having the concubine. And the reason that Brock Lesnar came back to the WWE, so surprising to people, was he was mentioned in that indictment with Vince McMahon.
He was. And then his name was cleared, which is the only reason he's back in WWE now. So I don't know, man. Bret, the timeline of this whole Bret thing, where is this coming from? It's like he's taking the next step. What's next after this? After this story blows over in 5 years, no pun intended. After this story in 5 years.
Bret shot Kennedy.
Yeah. Vince and Shawn are going to be the shooters on the grassy
knoll.
To get it. And I tell you, I say all this with absolute. I would say it to Shawn if he was right here. I would actually like to have Shawn come clean and say, "Look, we were lovers." I'm sure they were.
That's going to be the next story. It's like he's taking it each step further and further.
Well, why do you think he has become so sour?
Well, the timeline of Bret Hart when he got screwed over in the Montreal Screwjob with Shawn Michaels, I don't think Shawn Michaels wasn't vying for the spot. I viewed them as neck and neck in that particular time period. I didn't really see the Shawn Michaels jealousy angle of anything. So after he got screwed, he left. He went to WCW. Bill Goldberg ended his career by kicking him in the head. He talks still about Bill Goldberg's going to be mentioned next as a guy who had a sexual relationship with one of these wrestlers if he continues to talk like this. But
yeah. And you know what? And back in the day when Bret Hart got the Montreal Screwjob done on him, and for folks that don't know what the Montreal Screwjob is that Bret Hart was going to be leaving the WWE. At the time, it was the WWF. Bret Hart wanted to stay, but Vince McMahon wasn't going to be able to allocate the money towards him. He wasn't going to be able to keep Shawn and Bret at the same time. So what Bret did was he went behind his back. He signed with WCW, and Vince McMahon wanted him to drop the strap. But Bret Hart was wrestling in Canada, and he was wrestling in his hometown, so he didn't want to drop the strap to Shawn Michaels, who he despised. So Vince McMahon, apparently, they constructed this whole maneuver and this screw job where they would ring the bell. What was supposed to happen was when Shawn Michaels had the sharpshooter on, it was supposed to be reversed, and Bret was supposed to put the sharpshooter on him. He was supposed to win, retain the belt, go to Monday Night Raw, and lose it to Shawn on there. But Bret was never easy to work with. Just like Hogan, you want to talk about that doesn't work for me, brother. Like, and I always thought, for a kid who lived through that time where Bret Hart fighting Yokozuna and Undertaker and stuff, like, I was a seed when this was coming out. Dude, I never liked Bret Hart. I never liked the Hart Foundation, fucking the stupid goatees, like the pink and the black. Get out of here. Bret Hart might be one of the worst champions ever, and everyone always says that he's the best wrestler of all time. Get to the back of the fucking bus, Bret Hart, okay? Kurt Angle eats your lunch in the ring. Like, there is so many guys that are in-ring performers. Rob Van Dam, better in-ring performer than you right there. And know what's even crazy? I'll even go out on a fucking limb right here. Your boy, the influencer right now, the shit that he's doing inside the ring is unbelievable.
Logan Paul?
Yeah, Logan Paul, one of the best in-ring performers in sport, and he's been there for 11 days.
And dude, WWE was, or WWF at the time, when Bret Hart was the top guy, they were searching after Hogan left out of desperation because Ultimate Warrior didn't work out. He didn't pan out. All these guys started leaving, and they had this whole new generation era where it was Diesel, Razor Ramon, Michaels, Bret Hart was leading that era, and it wasn't the most profitable era.
It was the worst. They couldn't even get the video games right. Like,
No.
the WWF arcade game with Doink the Clown was
Doink?
fucking awful.
Remember Dink the Clown?
Yes, I mean, they always need a sidekick, you know? But, yo, man, like, Doink wasn't – the original Doink was a decent wrestler, and it was actually a good storyline. It was kind of ahead of its time. But, yeah, man, at that time was like the Dark Ages for the WWF when Yokozuna, when they had the big giant with that stupid suit he wore.
Oh, the Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, when you gotta wear a suit from like the Anatomy show on PBS with the guy with the curly hair, I don't know. He was like, "Hey, this is my elbow." When you have to wear that suit, you might have to work out a little bit. So now, also, why he's mad at Goldberg for kicking him in the head and scrambling his brains.
Yeah, giving him a permanent concussion that ended his career.
But Goldberg and Bret Hart deserve each other. They're both assholes.
Yeah, and Goldberg to this day is like, I don't blame him for saying, and he's like, I don't know how much more I could apologize to the guy. I completely understand that I acknowledge that I screwed up and I kicked him, but I'm not going to say sorry anymore. It's been 30 years.
Look at him in his seat. Look at him in his seat. Look at Bret in his seat right now. Look at his posture. Do you think he cares about the fans? He's literally reluctantly doing this and talking.
I honestly, I'm just telling you, I think I'm very close to the truth here. Shawn and Vince were lovers, and that's why I'm being dead honest, and I'm telling you.
Does that look like the face of a man that's lying, dude?
That's the same face he's been making for 30 years, bro. I can't tell.
I understand that. But when somebody lies, you know, their body language is, somebody doesn't go, yeah, well, you know, Bret and Shawn were sleeping with each other forever. like it's a throwaway. It wasn't like, hey, guys, I got something good for you. You know, like, it was like, well, but, and then he goes, no, I'm serious. And then they start laughing again. He goes, no, I'm serious. Like, he's being serious. I don't think he's being coy, because I think being playful and coy isn't in his repertoire, bro.
I just don't understand it's 2025 now. Like, these are things where he's come back to WWE multiple occasions. He's wrestled a couple of times against Vince McMahon at WrestleMania like 12 years ago or 15 years ago. So I don't know, like, he's got all these accusations, but he still does business with the same company that he apparently hates now.
Look at his belly.
And I love the belly.
Look at his belly. I mean,
I like to see the drink of choice too. It looks like
George Washington with diabetes. You know, like, what are we doing here? So anyway, listen, I completely believe it, though. I do think that Vince McMahon had a skin for belt little fucking thing going on, and I do think Shawn Michaels was on the thing. Because you got to remember, Pat Patterson, Vince McMahon's right-hand man, flamboyantly gay, he was out in the 60s when it wasn't cool. And that's another thing, dude. Everyone thinks he's joking around, but people feel more comfortable about coming out and speaking towards authority and speaking towards about things that might have happened under their tutelage or when they were watching this happen in the WWF. Or you could just be a curmudgeon George Washington lookalike from Canada who's really sour about how his WCW was probably one of the worst runs of all time.
Yeah, and you know what? I could see Vince being like, because I don't know how you go from Shawn Michaels giving it to Sonny and then and getting on his knees for Vince. It's like two different. I don't understand the combination.
Do you remember the story about our president that came out last week?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody is on the chopping block, Mike. Let me just tell you that.
Including us. We're on the chopping block.
And we're on the chopping block, and you can catch us right here, New York Minute Sports, New York Sports for New York Nuts. Not only do we cover every sport in New York, we're also doing wrestling now. WWE, AEW, old school ECW. We're going to be covering it all, guys. Hopefully going to try to get some interviews for you. Also going to put out the Jake the Snake interview I did with him a few years back. Also the Dan Severn interview. So we're putting a new wing here at New York Minute. It's WWE and professional wrestling talk. So let's get ready to rumble!